Hi, my name is Isaac Hassan. I graduated from the Weinberg College of Arts and Science in 2014, and I studied political science.
I'm Amy Petite. I graduated in 1990 from Emory University, where I met Professor Joseph.
My name is Scott Taylor. I was a student of Richard's at both Dartmouth, where I finished my undergraduate degree in 1987, and at Emory University, where I finished my PhD in 1998.
My name is Alison Brockman, and I graduated from Northwestern University in 2017.
Hi, my name is Brandon Ersman. I graduated from Northwestern in 2018.
I am a 2005 graduate of Northwestern University, and I got to know Professor Joseph during my senior year of college when I took his class on African governance and development. I forget the exact name now.
I worked with Professor Joseph as a research assistant in my junior and senior years. We worked on the Freedom Gates Project. We took a trip down to Atlanta. It was one of my favorite experiences in undergrad.
I first met Professor Joseph, I think, when I was a freshman, but over the course of my time in college, I think I took every class that he ever offered, which was about 4 or 5.
He was teaching an African politics class in the United States at Emory shortly after joining the university. And I believe he had come directly from somewhere in Africa, probably from his Ford Foundation position to Emory.
As an undergraduate, I took 3 classes with Richard in the government department and in the African and African American Studies program, AAAS. And the work with him in both those spheres helped to solidify my interest in both in politics and in the study of Africa.
I knew I was interested in topics related to democracy and international relations, and getting to know about Professor Joseph's research and learning about these topics in sub-Saharan Africa really opened my eyes to some of the joys and possibilities of conducting research in this area.
So I had decided to go to graduate school, but I took a year off, and when I decided to take a year off, I went around looking for what I could do that might have some relationship to research, and I was able to get a research assistantship position with Professor Joseph working at the Carter Center.
I am now currently a professor and director of the African Studies program at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service, so very much still in the business, and that owes very much to Richard's influence and support.
When I joined the project, I was just a normal Northwestern student, political science student, but it really gave me something to work on, and I loved learning about Professor Joseph's experiences and the project as a whole throughout my last couple of years.
I thought that I wanted to go to graduate school, and this was something that Professor Joseph gave terrific advice about, and he wrote me a letter of recommendation for my programs, and I eventually went on to get a PhD in political science from Princeton, and now I am a professor of political science at Yale University, continuing to work on topics related to democracy and international politics.
I think everybody who graduated from Northwestern or from any elite school knows sort of how pre-professional the environment can be at times. And I think Northwestern did a really wonderful job of showing me, what consulting was and what banking was and what being a doctor looked like or a lawyer. But working with Professor Joseph was the first real time that I saw what a career in academia would look like, and, what a career as a scholar activist would look like.
And one thing that really inspired me about working with Professor Joseph is he's one of the most knowledgeable people that I've ever met, one of the most experienced people, one of the most well-traveled, and that's a goal, I think, that I really want to strive for in my life.
And I think that the exposure to the developing world problems that I became exposed to in Professor Joseph's classes and through our friendship has actually significantly influenced my work. I think a lot of people in Silicon Valley are kind of focused on Jetson's version of the future, where we have innovations that will be available to high-income people in high-income countries. But I don't know if that many people are focused on deep technical research and scientific research that can be widely scaled quickly to the entire world to influence problems like agriculture, food, water especially. And so Professor Joseph really put a lot of that on my radar.
My favorite story that he ever told, and Professor Joseph is an awesome storyteller, is about when he met Nelson Mandela. If you haven't heard the story, definitely better from him, but basically it took a couple tries to get the photo correctly.
A funny one, when he was teaching that African politics class, as I said, he had just come back after some time away from the U.S. and was teaching students who, like me, really had had very little exposure to Africa. And he was, I think, astonished at how little we knew. And so he kept on saying in his class, I need to lower the bar, I need to lower the bar, because basically he had an expectation that we would have some background information, and we didn't have any background information for the most part.
I don't know how many people know this one, but Professor Joseph actually brought Malcolm X to Dartmouth when he was a student at Dartmouth and hosted him for a weekend the week before Malcolm X was assassinated, which is a truly incredible story. You should ask him about it.
One of them is I always thought it was funny that Professor Joseph called himself a scholar activist. And, you know, not everyone knows this, but Richard Joseph, I think, was the second or third African-American Rhodes Scholar from the United States. And he was in Mississippi in the late 60s during Freedom Summer, kind of agitating for change in our country. But since then, in college, where there are a lot of people who are truly radical, I would always kind of joke, and I joked with him, and I said, Professor Joseph, you worked at the Carter Center, you're, the most important governance scholar regarding Africa in the country. You're a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institution. We went to the Chicago Council. Nothing really says radical activist like sterling establishment credentials. And Professor Joseph told me that he thought that was very, very funny.
Now that I'm teaching at a university, I hope that I can carry forward some of the lessons that he taught me and pass them along to my students. And I know that if I can be just a small bit of as good of an example as Professor Joseph was to me, that I will have succeeded.
There's so many memories that from dinners at his house to working with him in the classroom as both a student and as a co-teacher, to the many conferences that he hosted and invited me to. I just appreciate it. All the best.